Alright, today we're talking about must-learn patterns for guitar players, and I'm not talking about the pattern of rampant consumerism where you just buy a new guitar every time you get bored with it. We're talking about the actual most important chord progression pattern and how you can actually use it to your own advantage to make it sound different, because there's one chord progression that basically every genre of music for the last 100 million years has used, and it's 1-5-6-4 chord progression. Alright, so I promise you've heard this, even if you don't have a name to it. It'll sound something like this. In the key of G, it would be like a G, D major, E minor, C major. Okay, so we call that a 1-5-6-4. There are an infinite amount of ways to play it, but it's cool to be able to see it as a pattern, so then you can use it in any key and be able to shift it, transpose it, do it in different keys for your voice, because you kind of learn this one pattern and you really learn like 100,000 songs, right? Just look up 1-5-6-4 songs and there'll be a huge list of it. So this is going to be very helpful, I think, to a lot of people, because I wish I started seeing this as a pattern first instead of a collection of chords, because, you know, the human brain is all stoked on pattern recognition, so let's talk about it just as root notes. Alright, 3rd fret on the E string, 5th fret on the A string, 7th fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the A string. I remember my teenage mind was very like... That was probably like the first 1-5-6-4 that I learned. Comment below if you know what that song is. But basically, those are just power chords, okay? Why we call this a 1-5-6-4 is because chord progressions are named from the major scale of where you begin. So in the key of G, the people's key, we would have something like a major scale, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Basically, it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So that's why it's good to learn that pattern first, just as a shape. And then it becomes more musical as you take the highlights of it. So we've got 3-5-7, 3-5-7, 4-5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the octave 8, 1 again, however you want to count that. Okay, so if we just take the 1, 5, 6, 4, again we're skipping the 2 and 3, we go right from 1 to 5. I'm just tracking the root notes of these chords. We would have a G, the one chord in any key is always major, G, major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 would be D, the D, or the 5 chord in any key is always also going to be major, D, major, 1-5-6. D comes right after E in the alphabet. Really, learning musical scale is more just about thinking of the notes of the alphabet than anything else. So D, E, the 6th chord in any key is minor. And then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G, A, B, C. The 4 chord in a key is major. So, by taking that 1, 5, 6, 4, we have a little pattern right here. And, you know, sometimes it does help, even though it's probably not the best thing to do training all your fingers, just to track root notes with one finger. I've found that can really solidify the shape in my mind's eye of doing something like that. And then you can turn these into power chords, where you just add, you know, your ring finger or your pinky, maybe a string higher, 2 frets higher, and then you get a... Okay, so we've got just the root note, 1-5-6-4, the power chord, 1-5-6-4, the open chord, 1-5-6-4, and there's so much more that you can do with it once you start seeing it in a different way, because all of this is super movable. So I want to talk about how we can do this in other keys, and also how we can maybe make these sound a little more interesting to mix up what is essentially the same chord progression, but to solidify it. But first, I gotta tell you about the sponsor of the video. It's Elixir strings. You know that this Martin D18 sounds amazing because I have put Elixir strings on it. So, do a ton of videos with these. I almost always use the NanoWeb 12s. Depending on what kind of guitar I'm doing. I might use the 13s if I'm down tuning and stuff like that. But, love the 12s. These strings last forever. They sound great. They're so much easier in your hands. If you've never tried them, you're silly. You're silly if you've never tried Elixir strings. So, do me a favor, hit the link in the description, pick up a set of Elixir strings. Your guitar's going to sound better whether you're just getting another set or you're trying it for the first time. Let me know if you're trying it for the first time, because I would love to hear your honest thoughts on them, because I've been a huge Elixir fan for decades now, as long as I've played guitar. I think it was maybe like the second year I started playing guitar, I found Elixir strings, and I was like, never changing, never going back. So we're going to put these strings to the test by fleshing out some extended chords, all right? So it's not just going to be as simple as major or minor triads or power chords, which is what we've done so far. We're going to add a little more character to this progression so you can kind of hear the difference of what, you know, a more robust, fancier chord progression might sound like. So the first thing that I always do is I change the 1 chord to a major 7 chord, right? So again, it's still a G major, but now I'm adding an F sharp to it. So I've got 3. The root note is going to be the same. You'll notice that my root note is always going to be just like this. This is the pattern, okay? And in fact, you can use this almost as like a bridge between chords. So what I mean by that is let's take that G major 7, 3 E, 4 on the D and G string, and the middle finger 3 on the B string. See how I used the 5 and the 6 almost as transitions to the 4 chord? And again, we're going to do a fleshed out version of each one of these chords, but see, that's kind of a pretty thing that might not count as like a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. That's really just kind of like a 1 with a little transition into the 4. But you see where all these notes come from and how they have value in a lot of different ways, right? So we'll go from here to maybe this one. Let's do it a little easier. So let's do the 5 like this, where there's my root note, 5A, and then it's major 3rd, 4D, and then I'm getting 5 G and B. So I got this kind of like dominant 9 chord, whatever. And then we're gonna take this to the 6 by doing the same shape, but then putting your pointer finger to a minor 3rd instead of a major 3rd. So now there's the D chord, there's the 5 chord. Now we're gonna go to 6, but now I make that one adjustment back with my pointer finger. So it's basically the same thing, but with a minor 3rd. So it's 7A, 5D, 7, 7, G and B. 1, 5, 6, 4. And again, the 4 chord is going to also be major 7 because I turn everything into a major 7 chord because that's what I do. 3 on the A string, there's a root note, 5D, 4G, 3B. 1, 5, 6, 4. Which power chords? 1, 5, 6, 4. Open chords. You'll notice that, like, if you're writing a song, the melody sometimes will be dictated by the extensions. So you can hear the essence of it there. And then just kind of playing around with the root notes, right? So again, it's a different vibe, but it is essentially the exact same thing. So the cool thing about doing closed voicings like this is you can move them around really easy. That's the downside of learning some of the open chords first, is you think of them as like their own thing, right? Like I just learned a G major chord and I spent a lot of time getting this right. And then also maybe I learned like an A major chord, trying to get that right, and an F major chord. But maybe they don't go together. Sometimes they do go together. Maybe you don't totally understand which ones always go together. This will always go together, 1, 5, 6, 4, right? And then once you see them as the root notes in just like this, you got your starting point, 2 frets higher down a string, a whole step higher, and then 2 steps back, right? Once you see that, then everything is movable and you can do anything anywhere. So let's do this in B flat, which would be the 6th fret on the E string. We could play the B flat major scale if we want, or you can just think of 1, 5, 6, 4, or 1, 5, 6, 4. Okay, so it all becomes extremely movable, which is super, super important. And you know, it'll help in like making up riffs. It'll help in your lead playing, because even if you get higher up into the register, you can still be like, all right, well, you know, I'm in G. Let's go back to the people's key, the key of G. It's like, all right, I know that this is a 1, 5, 6, 4. I know these are notes that go together. The next octave G would be right here, the 5th fret. I know this would be the higher version of a 1, 5, 6, 4. Right? Then we go to the next highest G, 1, 5, 6, 4. And then it's like, oh, well, now that I know that these notes are always available, you know, maybe I can use this to my advantage, connecting different ideas. Maybe I know a lot of pentatonic stuff, like in G I can go to like E minor, something like that. And then it's like, all right, where am I going to end up? Where's that G? Oh. And again, those are, you know, those aren't chords from a progression, but those are things that I've gleaned just from seeing this one pattern and then maybe doing it an octave up and then ending on, you know, all over the place. So aside from just being something that is kind of like a must-know chord progression, there's also like a lot of other benefits of thinking about just tracking stuff all over in different directions. And then if you want to, you could even do, you know, chord substitutions. Like I said, one thing that I do a lot in my playing is I'll take the 5 chord and I'll make it minor, right? Maybe within the context of the same song. So what I can do there is like, all right, well, I know that that 5 chord is, you know, there's my 1, there's my 5, and my 6, 4. What if I make this 5 chord minor, right? You can kind of work this into a chord progression in maybe like a more subtle way. One thing that I like to do is I like to mix up the order of it. Instead of it just being like 1, 5, 6, 4, maybe I'll go 1, 6, 5, 4. I really like the sound of descending lines to going backwards. So that's a great way to maybe go 1, 6, 5, 4. See, that was a minor 5 chord, right? Rules are meant to be broken. So because you know that pattern first, I can be like, all right, you know, I've got that G major, E minor, D major, C major. Maybe if I want to really kind of have a point in a song that stands out, draws attention to a certain part, I'll be like, all right, that 5 chord, I like the sound of it being minor, especially in a descending 6-5-4 context. So I'll be like, all right, 1, 6, E minor, 5, minor, 4. And again, I think that's just like a beautiful kind of spin on a very traditional G, D, E minor, C, G, D, minor. Again, there's, you know, look up, just type in minor 5. I don't want to go into a bunch of pop culture examples. You could just type in famous 1, 5, 6, 4 in Google, or famous minor 5 chord progressions. There is no shortage of them out there, but it's good to know the patterns and the context behind them. So I just wanted to kind of do a quick video on that. Definitely get yourself some Elixir strings if you're savvy. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.